Broadcasting from the Red Bed Plains, you are now listening to Through the Prairie Smoke.
Well, hey guys, we're here in the old garage studio.
Yep.
So, Memorial Day.
It's so warm today.
It's Memorial
And it's
Day.
also Memorial Day. Yes, it is warm.
And it's the three of us back.
Here we are.
Yeah. Producer's in the house.
And the producer. What? She's not mic'd. All right. Sarah, your tea's ready to go over there, isn't it?
Yes.
Tell us about your hot leaves.
Okay, so today I'm starting again with Snowy Owl. Seriously, guys, send me free tea. I'm talking about you a lot. This one is called Flow State for energy and focus pocus. They're kind of witchy. I don't know if I mentioned that before.
I like witchy.
It says, a brew to keep you focused when it matters most, featuring antioxidant-rich black tea, the invigorating aromas of juniper and rosemary, and energetic support from clementine and white pepper. And I made everybody smell it because it smells really good.
Yeah.
And they all said it smells like soap. But I think it tastes great. I feel like rosemary is one of those herbs, too, that I don't know if there's any science to this, but it helps with my breathing. I have asthma, and so things like rosemary and eucalyptus make me feel like I can breathe better.
Yeah.
I'm getting nods of affirmation from our
You are,
knowledgeable producer. Anyway, that's what I'm consuming.
Awesome.
That's my hot leaves. I'm glad that you're smoking another Blackbird because it makes me feel less bad about drinking the same brand of tea all the time.
Well, this is a new Blackbird. But the same brand. This is a pretty new cigar through Blackbird. It's called Meadowlark. It's another short run that they're doing. Anyways, Blackbird, Meadowlark. A meadowlark is a native bird in Kansas, and it's a yellow label. Pretty sweet.
Is the meadowlark a blackbird?
No, it's not black.
Maybe that's why it's got a yellow label.
But it's got a yellow belly. It looks like the label.
What do you got there, big guy?
Well, today I brought my Rattray olive wood pipe, and I am going to smoke another limited run Cornell and Deal blend in it. And I got this several months ago, but I've been saving it for a special episode, and I think today's the one. This small batch is called Folklore.
Nice.
Our story begins with a blend of 5 distinct flu-cured varietals, ranging from specially processed red and orange leaf to matured dark mahoganies and vintage Canadian brights, delicate accompaniments of genuine St. James Parish Perique, lightly smoked Kentucky, and exotic Casturi leaf combined to create a rich and elegant flavor profile with notes of sweet fruit, citrus, warming spices, and woodsy undertones. And this came in a big brick, so it's one you gotta work at a little more. And I don't normally smoke that, and so pre-recording when we were talking shop, I was breaking up what I thought I was going to use, and I did not break it up enough. I can't get a good airflow on this. So, but anyway.
It looks cool.
It looks cool. I passed it
Smells
around.
good.
It smells like raisins.
Great. I love it.
Real fruity, spicy. So I'm going to try to fix my draft here and get this thing lit so we can go through the smoke. But let's talk about our subject matter today. Today, we're going to talk about the Men in Black. And it's a subject that's one of my favorites. And while you all were doing your research, you're like, I'm finding this. I'm like, yeah, that's a Men in Black. And then somebody else would say, I found this. I'm like, yeah, that can be Men in Black too. And Sarah, what was it that you said? Not everything.
Not everything can be Men in Black.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it kind of is. So
We'll get into it, Tyler.
we will get into it. But let's talk about some pop culture representation.
My neighbor wears black suits.
Man in Black. What's his motives, though? That's the thing.
He's
Is
a
that what
banker.
distinguishes it?
It may be your motive, yeah. I mean, Johnny Cash is a man in black, and we know Dustin's a big fan, if you're a long-time listener.
Well, so
I love his poetry.
Yeah.
that's one of the things I wanted to talk about is, as I understand it,
Yes.
and I am the most new to this particular, of the group of us, to this particular phenomenon.
Okay.
It's not just about the way that they dress, or maybe not even at all about the way that they dress. And it's more about secrets.
Yes.
And so that's kind of where my criteria sits, is like secrets, silence, quiet, all of those things. So I don't think Johnny Cash counts because he's pretty outspoken.
This is true, yeah.
Anymore. Yeah.
That was a moment of silence.
For Johnny Cash,
Yeah.
who I love.
Okay, so fine. He doesn't have to count as a man in black. But when I say men in black, what are the pop culture characters that you think of, Sarah?
Well, obviously there's the movie, he's Men in Black. But there are other ones too that I didn't realize were Men in Black representations until we started talking about doing this episode, and I was like, I better learn a little bit. And suddenly was like, oh my gosh, these characters that I love are Men in Black.
Yeah.
So there's the famous and incredible episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer called Hush that won a bunch of awards. It's amazing. Even if you never watch Buffy, you can totally watch that episode. It will blow your mind. And the bad guys in that episode are called gentlemen. And they wear black suits with white shirts and black ties.
Okay.
And they have vaguely gray alien shaped heads.
Okay.
So the top of their head is more bulbous and then it gets very narrow as it goes down. And they hover. They don't walk. They sort
levitate?
Yep.
Okay.
And their whole deal is they never speak themselves.
Okay.
And they steal everyone's voices in the town that they're in. So no one can make any sound. And their objective, it's not very Men in Black-y. They want to steal hearts because I guess that's how they live, is on hearts.
Physical hearts?
So they cut people's hearts out.
Okay.
Yeah. And you can't scream and nobody knows that they're doing it and blah, blah, blah. So that's them.
Why can't you scream? Or you know it's happening?
No, they take your voice away.
Oh, they
you
take your
can't
voice
make any
away.
sound.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
But you can thrash around. You can fight.
Sure.
Okay.
But no one can hear you
I see.
calling for help.
I see.
And the entire town is completely silent. So it's hard for the team of people who are trying to fight them to come up with a plan or communicate about what's happening because they can't rely on their voices.
That'd be a good marketing plan for Life Alert.
Yeah, for when
You
the
know what I'm
gentlemen
saying?
come to
Yeah.
town, you need a life alert.
Watch
Yeah.
for the Men in Black.
That's right.
They should heavily advertise in that area. For sure.
It's not help, I've fallen and I can't get up. It's I just saw a black Cadillac drive by with two men in it.
Right.
Yeah.
The other one that I thought of was from Doctor Who, and it's a famous Doctor Who villain called The Silence, and it was actually based on the Men in Black. I did not realize that until I started looking more deeply into it, but that's a stated thing. They are supposed to be like the Men in Black.
And did any of that have to do with aliens? Doctor Who, maybe, huh?
Yes. I mean,
And then the gentlemen, are they...
no, they're more I would say more paranormal.
ghosty?
They actually in the episode they state that they are from a German folktale. So,
Okay.
but I don't think it's a real German folktale.
Okay. It's for
I
the-
think Buffy made it up.
Sure. What came first? Was it the movie or was it the TV show?
The movie came first.
Okay. And
And then the TV show a few years later.
okay.
Yeah.
The TV show was extremely popular, right? Yeah.
It's
and
so good.
working in used media, I would see a bunch of cross merchandise, mangas, comic books, fiction.
I'm on a quest for all the comics.
I did not know that, I
Yeah.
don't think, but
Yeah.
I'll keep that in mind.
I'm super obsessed with Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Sure.
Tyler knows there's also a mass market paperback that I'm on the hunt for that costs several $100s.
Mm-hmm. But if you can find that used bookstore that might just put it out for $3.
I know, it'd be amazing.
Yep.
That'd be cool.
The design of the silence is similar, so it's that bulbous head, big sort of hollow eyes, and then it narrows down. They don't have mouths at all. They obviously don't speak. They also, the silence erases your memories. So they can influence your behavior, and then immediately, the second
Make
you're
you
not
forget.
looking at them, you forget they were there at all. But you still can be motivated to do things that they want you to do without realizing where that motivation came from. That's very Men in Black-y to me.
Yeah.
Gentlemen also have these sidekicks that are like, oh, how do I describe this in a nice way? Well, it feeds off of bad tropes about mental illness. So the sidekicks have these straitjackets that are like open, so the arms are like super, super long. And they move around kind of in a lumbery, sort of
Shuffly.
gallopy, animalistic kind of fashion. And they are the ones that do all the violence and things. The gentlemen just sort of silently hover around places.
Direct the chaos.
Yeah, exactly. And they do. They use little hand motions. It's actually super, super creepy because nothing they do is big and outward. It's all so subtle. And I think that that's really like key for horror. Like the stuff that's big and out there isn't nearly as scary as like this little gentle motion with the hand or whatever.
Yeah, the little things underneath.
Anyway, so those two, and then of course there's the Men in Black movie. Those are my three that kind of came to mind as someone who knows nothing about, or at least prior to this proposed episode, knew literally nothing about Men in Black beyond those three things.
How about you, Dustin?
Really, just the movie, the Men in Black movie.
Will
That's
Smith,
really the
Tommy
first
Lee
time I
Jones.
ever even heard of Men in Black. And up until later on, I just thought that was something Hollywood came up with.
Sure.
But I didn't know it was actually based off a real or
Well, it's based on
you know what I mean.
Unusual
yeah.
events.
So
it originally was a comic book, actually.
yes,
Yeah.
If you listen to the first episode that Sarah was on, we talked about fairies, and there is a story about Men in Black bringing a woman back from fairyland to tell her family, hey, quit thinking Grandpa murdered me. I'm just hanging out with the fairies. And then they take her back to fairyland. So Men in Black, the concept, which we will talk about, started in about the 50s. So, but it wasn't like seeing creatures in black is not unusual.
Yeah.
That is something that is throughout recorded history people have reported seeing.
Yep.
Oh, what about... I have not watched a lot of X-Files,
I haven't either.
but I get the impression that X-Files has a lot of... I don't know who the Men in Black are supposed to be in the X-Files. I don't know if it's Mulder and Scully or if it's some... But I just vibes-wise, it
Sure.
feels like there's probably a lot of Men in
I
Black.
didn't really
in there.
think about that. That's a good point to bring up. Yeah.
So-
I didn't think about the X-Files.
Susan's
Yeah.
making a face.
On the X-Files television show, the term Men in Black refers to a group of enforcers employed by the Syndicate to execute assassinations, cover-ups, and other clandestine operations.
It's Black Ops.
It is clear that most, if not all of them, are former members of Special Operations units.
Yeah.
Okay, so not Mulder and Scully. They're not Men in Black.
They're the investigators, but the
Gotcha.
Men in Black are the executors. Boots on the ground.
Boots on the ground.
Doing the dirty work for the syndicate.
Top secret. Boots on the ground.
So, who are the Men in Black? So, if we talk about this as outside of pop culture, the reality type phenomenon, these are what everyone assumed they were government agents. Someone from the government, and specifically the Air Force, you're looking into flying saucers, you need to cut that out.
You're talking about this. This is what people thought about them in the 50s.
In the 50s,
Okay.
yes. So, but yeah, that's Men in Black. That concept is based on that idea.
Yeah.
Not to say that men only dressed in black in the 50s and were ominous then.
All men. All men dressed in black and were ominous in the 50s.
She's not mic'd, guys. What are we supposed to do?
We do need to get her on mic for these special occasions.
Mm-hmm.
It's true.
Yeah.
I agree.
Also, for me in popular culture, I think the agents from the Matrix. They are
Yeah, they've
a type of Men in Black.
Yeah.
Man, they're everywhere.
Yeah, they can be everywhere. They slip in and out. And sometimes it looks like they can do things that normal people can't do.
Do you think that was like intentional? So like I was saying, the silence was, they have stated that it was based on Men in Black as we understand the 1950s version.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think the Matrix, I mean, I guess we'd have to look it up.
Yeah, I'd have to look that. I'm sure that has been talked about at length, but just kind of like the type of beings those are. I mean, of course, Neo can do better than the agents toward the end, but the agents are those people who are protecting the program.
Yeah,
you know?
they're trying to keep
The
things
secret.
under wraps, to so to speak. Yeah.
So it's kind of like that. And you guys have heard me say this enough, but I like the fun trickstery type stuff. I want everybody to have a good time with this stuff. Men in Black typically are not the good time having guys. They're the enforcers.
Unless you're Will Smith.
Unless you're Will Smith. Since that is probably most people's pop culture knowledge of that, should we talk about a breakdown of that movie right quick?
Sure.
As we considered this for the podcast, I was thinking about all the social commentary I could think of for that movie. And I would like to say that, and this is extremely unfortunate, but what is it, 1997 maybe when that movie came out? The very first scene is they're rounding up illegal immigrants.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up too.
And so, like, that was my first thing of, like, what are they doing here? What's going on? Why are these people bad? You know? And then, you know, one of them, several people die, I think, in that opening scene, but everyone's expendable in those scenes. So, it's nobody
Well, and that comparison between aliens and aliens is like
Yeah.
cringy.
Yeah.
Hey, well, it's been forever since I've seen it, and around the time that it came out, I was probably just not.
Oh, it didn't register for
I'm
me.
very, I'm gonna say when I watch stuff, I'm not like in depth. I guess like
Sure.
like I don't know if I'd read between the lines. I've never been good at that. I've just watched it as it is. It could have been.
And
I also think that Dustin thinks more critically than Dustin thinks he does.
I do as well. Because you notice some things about movies that I did not notice. Right. But I noticed a lot of the aesthetic stuff. But anyway, so that aliens commentary right at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you like just bringing that up. It's been so long since I've seen that movie, and I didn't even until you said something. Now I'm like going back into my little chamber in my head, and vaguely remembering all that.
My favorite character in the MIB movie is the pawn shop guy. I think it's played by Tony Shalhoub.
Monk,
yeah,
Wendy Monk.
But it's right after Agent J. It's his first time out, you know, with K. And they go into that pawn shop and he's asking for info. And, you know, K pulls that gun and just puts it in that guy's face and blows his head off. And J is freaking out. But then the guy's head just grows back. It's like, don't you know how much that stings? And it's like, oh. So it's interesting because in that movie, the Men in Black are kind of this secret government, or it may be part of the United Nations even, because it's the Galactic Council or something.
The fourth Men in Black movie is Men in Black International. So there is some. I don't think it's just the United States.
Okay, yeah, and there is a joke that Jay has later on that's making fun of Rip Torn's character, and I can't remember his alphabet designation. But anyway, he's talking about being serious in the Galactic Council and all that stuff, and Jay is just mocking him mercilessly to K. Anyway, it does some strange things with, the alien beings are here on Earth, they're living amongst us, and they have to blend in. So it's like little aliens and big robots, and they can't even get the robots to look right because they're really sticking out as humans. It's like...
Well, and that's what I think that was one of the things that's kind of confusing to me about the Men in Black movie version versus the Men in Black folklore historical version.
Yeah.
And that is that, like, are the Men in Black in the... And it came up for me when I noticed the aliens connection, because there is a big contrast between how aliens are treated at the border and aliens from outer space are treated. And it almost feels like the Men in Black are there to protect the aliens from outer space.
Yeah.
But then, of course, they're also blowing their heads off. It's very confusing.
Yeah. So I think the movie was never intended for anyone to think about it too hard.
Sure. No, the reason
Which is
I
what
bring
you're
this,
getting at.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of have like this switch, like especially comedy movies. Like comedy, like I don't know if I guess I just don't have the mindset going into a comedy thinking deeply into it. Now maybe like there are some movies that but I think I just have to be like in the mindset when I'm going into it. So that's why like horror movies, but not all horror movies.
Sure.
Do I go into with that mindset? But there are some that I do, and then it's like, wow, this is deep, Yeah. But comedies, I don't typically go in with high expectations or or in-depth meaning.
That's one of these things too. Like when people ask, "What's your favorite movie?" It's like the only thing, like my mind blanks. Like I know so many movies, and I love so many of them. And the only thing that goes through my mind is don't say Transformers, But it's
Is
just
Transformers one of your favorite?
No, it's not.
Oh.
But it's like it's one of those movies that's like, what do they expect me to say? Some big blockbuster that's just special effects,
No.
It's like, no, I want a movie that challenged my view of the world.
Right.
And I can find that in dumb movies like Men in Black as well.
Well, and the reason
Well, now that we're talking about it, now I'm sitting here like, okay, maybe I need to go watch it again and just pick everything apart.
And we're talking about a series that has 4 movies at least?
At least 4.
Yeah, and I've only seen the first one. I know I saw.
Apparently, I've seen all of them, but I only remember the first and fourth.
Okay.
I vaguely remember the second.
The second one is the least memorable of all of them, so I would
Isn't that
not
when it
blame
gets
you if you.
the woman in black? Isn't that when she comes into play?
Yes.
Yeah. All I know about that is that he works at the post office, and the post office is so efficient because they're using aliens.
But that's why I asked that question in the group thread about women in black, because they exist in the Men in Black universe, right, of the movies, but I have never seen any other, like, these other pop culture things that I'm talking about.
Sure.
None of them are female presenting at all.
So I have some theories that's pure speculation, and part of it is like coming from the 1950s and the extreme patriarchal society. It's just women were not ominous in the 50s.
Yeah.
So you can't have a creepily ominous person who presents female standing in a suit over there.
But they didn't stop showing up in the 50s.
You're right. Yeah.
So are there women now?
I would say that yes, there are. In fact, we have some it's not evidence, it is anecdotal reports of women in black. So, if we want to, are we jumping out of pop culture?
I don't know. Does anybody else have anything they wanted to talk about pop culture wise? Any media?
I can't. One last one.
Yeah.
Because you didn't bring it up. I kept waiting for you to bring it up because I thought it would be on your little list of our points. Hellboy. Isn't that typical? Like, that's kind of.
Yes.
Like,
so, the BPRD. I mean, they're going out fighting demons, the monsters.
Yeah.
So that's a part of it.
But it doesn't have to be aliens.
It doesn't have
So
to be
it's
aliens.
about your
it's about
how
perception.
you view it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the Men in Black comic that the movies were based on, it was werewolves and vampires, and you know, I mean,
Yeah.
it wasn't just aliens either.
Yeah.
So
Which is, I mean, that's what Hellboy's after as well.
Yeah.
But he works for the BPRD, a bureau for paranormal research and defense. You know. So yeah, absolutely. He works for the Men in Black essentially in that universe.
Yeah. Then there was a book, and probably shouldn't even bring this up because I don't know the title, author, or anything.
Oh, we're good
You
at
remember
this.
it's a book that you let me borrow, and it was like I vaguely remember like monsters existed, but no one could see them, but these people could, and then like
Was it written really movie scripty like?
kind of it had some humor in it, and it was probably more youth based.
And it
there are
was a
few
little
But it was a
books that are
really
kind
good
of
book.
that.
little mass market paperback, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yellow monster.
Oh yeah. I know
yeah.
this book.
Yeah, I heard that too.
Yeah, I read it too. We
Yeah.
all read it.
Okay. All right.
I didn't know Sarah at that time. She read it organically outside of my friend circle.
Sarah's quickly learning being a friend with me, as you two already know. When Dustin starts bringing up, I don't know the book, I don't know the author.
No, you're my
I don't
favorite
know.
kind of
Yeah,
person.
we can do this.
Yes.
I
wish
walk into the
everybody-
library, I'm like that.
All of my social interactions would be much easier on me if they were centered around someone being like, hey, there's this media and it's this type of thing and I don't know what it's called. And then the whole rest of that conversation is so much nicer for me and less stressful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's it right there.
That's it.
A. Lee
Martinez.
Yeah.
Title is Monster.
Yeah.
It's
That's so wild that we all read that.
Yeah.
it's a fun book.
I had a couple of quotes from the first Men in Black movie that
Ooh.
I wanted to just throw out there. I don't know if they would be worth discussing or if it's just this is kind of fun and interesting.
Let's do it.
One of them is, I think it's Kay that says it. He's talking to an experiencer. And he says, the flash of light you saw was not a UFO. It was swamp gas from a weather balloon that was trapped in a thermal pocket and reflected the light from Venus.
Uh-huh.
And those
you-
are all like,
Do you know why that exists?
well, I know that all of those things are different explanations for why people see UFOs.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is why you get, it was a street lamp.
Yes.
But there is a very famous case that was kind of... So, J. Allen Hynek, which we've talked about before, he is real-world investigator, worked at the University of Colorado, friends with Jacques Vallée, big into the alien stuff. But his initial job was to go out and be like, what you think you saw, this is probably what it was. It probably was not extraterrestrial. It probably was not a craft. And that worked pretty well for him. Except there was about 20% of things where he couldn't. And then as he talked more and more about experiencers and they get into beliefs and religions and things like that, that's when the perspective changes. And so suddenly Hynek is like, oh, maybe there's something to this. But I would say, without having done a deep dive research onto this guy, I've read some of his books, I've listened to some of the interviews, but there was an incident, I can't remember where it was. It was college students, college kids saw a strange light in the sky. And it was a lot of people that saw it. And Hynek's job was to go in there and say, no, that's not what you saw. You actually saw swamp gas released from the marsh over there, and then some sort of geological spark made it illuminate rapidly. And it's like, that hung out over there for 30 minutes, dude. He's like, no, it's swamp gas. Like, and it's clearly not swamp gas, you know.
I feel like just you saying all of that, like that quote from the movie to me is like fan service.
It is absolutely
right?
fan
like
service.
it's in
Yes.
there just purely because The regular person is not going to pick up on that.
Yeah.
They might think it's a funny, odd thing to say.
Right, yeah.
But they're not going to necessarily make all those connections that
Yep.
you just made.
Uh-huh.
And so I think that's kind of interesting, too, that they made this movie fully thinking about the people.
You can watch that movie as a comedy action
Yes.
without knowing anything about it, and it will be fine.
Yes.
But also, if you are looking for cultural
Got
references,
little
and
Easter
things like-
eggs and stuff
yes,
left in there.
They're there
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Now get this, wrap your mind around this.
Okay.
Why do they feel like they have to give an explanation after they erase their mind?
That's my biggest problem with the movie, because they can erase people's minds. What are we doing?
I have an idea about that.
Come speak into a mic if you're going to be here.
I have an idea about that. I think it's because they can't leave a void in a person's memory.
Yeah.
There has to
That's
be
how
something
I
there.
always understood it, too.
Oh, okay.
That there's a gap.
Yeah, you
When
can't
they
have
take
that
it
gap.
out. It doesn't just, like, smush together like you're cutting and editing film.
Right.
Or podcast.
Or a podcast.
But what happens when you faint or you black out?
That's what yeah.
Like, wouldn't that be the same thing?
Well, but that's the thing.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Well, your mind is going to leap to conclusions then if you don't have something there already to fill it.
Or-
and so if your mind is like, yeah, but what if it was a UFO? And that's not what they want you to think.
Right.
So,
Oh, okay. Collateral damage.
sorry, I'll get
Yeah.
out of your podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. That was our lovely producer, Susan. Okay. Yeah. Good thoughts. Cool.
Yeah.
This
Anyways.
is kind of related. My last thing on Men in Black, it's kind of related to what you just said, which is the other quote from the movie that stood out to me was there's a point where the Will Smith character, he's Jay, right? And,
Jay, yeah.
Okay, where Jay says to Kay, like, why do we have to erase their memories? Why do we have to hide this? Like, people are smart; they can handle it. And Kay says, a person is smart.
People
are dumb.
Yep. Uh-huh.
And paranoid or panicky or
Panicky,
something like
yeah.
that. Yeah. And that's the whole thing. When I was saying earlier, like, are they protecting the aliens? Are they protecting people? Like, who are they protecting? Right.
I was gonna say both.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's Earth is kind of like a safe haven for some races. Is kind of
In
so
the
it's
movie?
kind of like if you
I mean,
put it into our perspective. What is it like?
It's a safe
What
house
do they
for
call
some.
it?
Sanctuary City?
Well, when your country is like in
A
war,
refugee.
we're refugee. Or,
Yeah,
yeah,
we're
yeah.
accepting migrants for
So, and
asylum
that that
seekers.
kind of comes down to a little bit of the beginning with the, the
Yeah.
alien thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think it's just more of a they're protecting both. I would say because there's bad aliens and then there's good aliens.
They're the
and then-
police for a larger
And-
scale.
This goes back to our episode on Mothman because remember when I brought up the whole like, was the Mothman a race that was trying to save humanity by giving warnings before, which would make the Men in Black bad guys, I guess, or Ingrid Gold or whatever his name is,
Ingrid
Cold.
Cold.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So I think I threw that theory out there.
Yeah.
When we were in the last one.
What if he's a hideous monster, but he's trying to help?
Yeah.
And understand why everybody's running from him.
Yeah.
That's a theme that comes up in Albert Bender's story as well. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. I hope.
Well, I'm hoping you can answer that question for me.
We'll
Who
see.
are they protecting?
And Albert Bender can give you an answer.
An
on that.
answer, right? Yeah.
I don't think it's very good. I think there's a lot of buildup for a whole lot of nothing. But Bender feels that the threats against him are real. All right. I went on a trip recently, and I went into a used bookstore. You guys know I like books.
Wait, are we going through the smoke now?
Hold on. This.
You can edit it out.
Yeah.
You can fix it.
It's going to be great.
Fix it in post.
Anyway, I was in Philadelphia. I went to mostly books and picked up Flying Saucers Are Real. And I did not write down the guy's name. I think it's Walsh. Anyway, he collected a whole bunch of books, and then somebody went through and took pictures and did a synopsis of all these books. This book, Flying Saucers Are Real, was not put together by people who believe flying saucers are real.
Donald Kehoe.
This is the pop art book. Donald Kehoe did write UFOs Are Real, but this is more of a art collection type book.
Okay, gotcha. Is it UFOs Are Real, extraterrestrial encounters documented by the U.S. government?
No, flying saucers are real.
Wow, Tyler. You've stumped the librarian. I love it. Go ahead and continue. This is not important.
Okay.
What you have to say is much more important than me finding the right.
In this bookstore, well, the cover is a picture of George Adamski's book that he published, but I can't remember the title of that book. It is a book about books about UFOs called Flying Saucers Are Real. ... Flying Saucers Are Real.
I think I found it. How about Womack?
Womack.
Jack Womack?
Jack Womack.
There you go.
That's the one. Yep. So anyway, this fella has a collection of UFO books that he started when he was young and just read them and loved them and kept them all. And then here are pictures of his books and what they're about and things like that. And William Gibson, I think, wrote the introduction. So it's interesting because the sci-fi world in the 50s and 60s was also the UFO world in the 50s and 60s. So it was hard to tell fact from fiction. But in the bookstore, when I opened it up, it immediately opened to Flying Saucers and the Three Men, which is what my portion of this podcast is going to be about. Albert K. Bender's account of Flying Saucers and the Three Men. But anyway, that book was there, and it had a whole lot to say about Gray Barker. But there is a quote in that book that said, "Men in Black have become as American as Ronald McDonald." And I mean, I'm American and I'm aware of the Men in Black. I don't know, I can't speak for other cultures, but it is kind of that these people work for the government and they're trying to hide something and they're trying to keep us down, bad agents. But anyway,
We've touched on this before, that America doesn't really have fairy tales, but it has folklore.
Has a lot of folklore, yeah.
I feel like I often see Men in Black referred to as folklore, which is why earlier I said folklore / history.
Right. Yep.
So it's interesting, yeah.
Culturally significant things going on. But since we are an Oklahoma podcast, it is time to go through the smoke. And let's talk about Oklahoma Men in Black.
Yay.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
I want to know all about it.
So, when we came up with what our next episode was going to be, and I started researching, I was like, first off, I had to weed through the Hollywood movie. And then I started doing some deeper research, and I could not find anything that we hadn't already discussed in Mothman. So I was like, coming up empty-handed. And then I was about to give up, and I was like, I'm going to try Men in Black stories in Oklahoma. And I figured nothing was going to show up, and something showed up. So it was really cool. So in Beaver, Oklahoma, in Beaver's Park, there's the dunes, the sand dunes, and they have a thing called the Shaman's Portal. And so this is what I came across, which was pretty nifty. First off, they call it Oklahoma's Bermuda Triangle.
The park itself, or
the portal, the Shaman's Portal,
okay.
yeah, which is in the middle of these dunes, in the sand dunes. So, in 1510, a Francisco Vasquez de Coronado from Spain, they had come over here in search for riches in the Seven Cities.
Oh, yeah.
They were in the Texas, Oklahoma panhandle area exploring, and they've came across the dunes. And they were actually warned by indigenous people of the area not to go because bad things could happen.
Yeah.
And they ignored the warnings, and while they were exploring, I guess, outside the dunes, they noticed green lights floating over the dunes. And so he sent 3 of the guys to go after it and look into it. And those 3 men didn't come back. And they were witnessed to have disappeared in green lightning. Like green lightning came and then flashes of green, and then they were gone. And this is all documented in his journal. So, I mean, this is all the way back in 1500s. So it's pretty neat.
So that's the paranormal occurrence at the Shaman's Portal in Beaver, Oklahoma.
Yes. So then later on in life, there's been other stories of the sand dunes. So OSU supposedly reached out to Dr. Mark Thatcher, and they kind of extended an invite to come to the sand dunes, where I think it was more just
geology.
For geology and stuff like that for the sand dunes. But when he come out, he spent 3 years researching the sand dunes, and towards the end of the 3 years, he had hired a geologist to come out and take soil samples. And in those soil samples, they were finding ionized soil cores and a lot of electromagnetic interference in the area. And so shortly after this discovery, he was visited by Men in Black, or what we call Men in Black, and basically was threatened to not go out to the dunes anymore, and that you didn't find anything.
Yeah.
And so they had cut off, due to I guess, according to this encounter with this man in black, they ceased all research. And that was, but this is very stretched because Dr. Mark Thatcher, even though that's like a name given, there's nothing on a Mark Thatcher, and OSU has no record of this. So
this is a story where the experiencer might even be fictional. Interesting. Okay.
And that was in the mid-90s, so around like 1995. And
Dr.
then
Thatcher's out there in 1995 marching around the sand dunes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Allegedly, yeah. And then I can only assume a couple of years later, or not too far down the road, there was an incident where a family had been camping in the sand dunes, and in the middle of the night they were hearing things, so they went to check it out, and they come across what looked like government officials digging in the sand dunes, and they were digging up something. They didn't know what it was, but I guess they got caught watching, and then they were interrogated for 3 hours from these officials on what they had seen, and then they were dropped 10 miles in the middle of nowhere away from their campsite.
When was that?
Well, that's another one of these, like, is this just a folklore, a story?
Story from the area.
Yeah. So it didn't have a time or a date on that one. So those are some of the stories that are coming out of the sand dunes, and that's kind of what has given its name of Oklahoma's Bermuda Triangle. And
yeah, what is the folklore? What do they think they were digging up?
They think that it's a UFO crash site. So then there was another theory, I guess, that it was a UFO crash site and the aliens still inhabit the sand dunes and have never left. for reasons unknown.
What do you think they're surviving on out there? People?
Salt crystals.
Manna from heaven?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Maybe they're a bunch of sandworms.
Could be.
That's where Beetlejuice got its... Yeah, maybe that's the alien that they're talking about.
Shaman's portal is actually portal to... What did they call that?
The afterlife?
Is it just the
I
afterlife?
think that's what they call it in the movie. Maybe I'm wrong.
So that's kind of the stuff I came across related to Oklahoma. I thought that was really interesting.
It is.
Speaking of what do they eat, I'm sorry, I just had a thought about Men in Black that I was going to talk about earlier and forgot.
Oh, let's talk about it now.
So I thought, you know how we've talked about everything is fairies? Mm-hmm. Edgar, the skin hangy offy bug guy from Men in Black, he wants sugar water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what do fairies like to eat the most? Sugar.
Is that right?
Yes, we talked about this.
Yep. And
Yeah,
I'm
they
glad...
love sugar and milk.
I'm glad that you brought him up, because that's like, from that movie, that is the one quote that I remember the most, and the one that I've said the most is like the sugar water line that he does.
Yeah.
Give me sugar. Sugar water. But what is interesting is I like that, the fairy thing, but also I was thinking about this last night, and now I'm going to forget because I've been blabbing too long. But do you remember back to the Mothman episode where that guy showed up to those people's houses and said that they were getting an inheritance, and he was interviewing them in their living room? They had offered him water, and he kept declining it until towards the end when he was like starting to
Looking ill.
Yeah, look, freak out. And that, for some reason, that popped in my head when I was thinking about the sugar water guy.
Yeah.
And in that guy's head that was sitting on the couch, he's all like, give me sugar water. They just didn't put that in the story.
Yeah, in the story.
So,
He said it extremely
but the
aggressive.
fairy thing's cool too, so.
Yeah, you can edit that back into the Men in Black conversation, right?
It's all fairy.
Everything's
everything's
fairies.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there was 3 sources that I took this stuff from, which kind of all said the same thing. There was the article Shaman's Portal in Oklahoma. This is on the site jahernandez.com. And that's also the author. And then the second source was American Folklore, Oklahoma, Shaman's Portal. And that was on ancestralfindings.com. And the third source was Restless Oklahoma, Shaman's Portal by Jean Mary Bauhaus.
Bauhaus, maybe?
Yeah, Bauhaus.
Great band.
That long name, .wordpress.com on April 10th, 2018.
Maybe we can put some of our sources in the show notes. Guys, we actually researched this stuff. It is backed up by stuff.
We do.
Just pretend it came out of our heads.
Yeah, that's true. We should do a segment.
Yeah.
Dustin
guys,
loves a segment.
Yep, I love
Notoriously.
segments. Yeah.
and it's not just the sound this time. There are some things we got wrong.
What did we get wrong?
I got wrong Joshua Cutchin's book. Last episode, I kept calling it the cosmology of the soul. It's actually Ecology of Souls, a new mythology of death and the paranormal. I had to set it aside, though, to read my primary sources for this podcast, though.
Put that in the show notes, too.
We can put that in the show notes.
There you go.
And Sarah, your turn.
I think I probably got a lot of things wrong on the last episode, but...
You know for sure.
Yeah, the one that really plagued my heart for like 2 weeks is the dates that I gave for the different portions of the Bazell Library on OU's campus. I don't remember what I said exactly. I think I might have said 1890, something like that. The original library was built in 1890. It burned down in 1903. So the oldest part of Bazell, 1927. Still very old.
That's still old.
Still very old.
Yeah. Anything that I said in my head was perfect, but was all wrong.
No, just,
Absolutely
you get
not.
everything right.
Yeah.
You always get it all right.
All right, guys. Are you ready to hear the story
Yes,
of
please, Tyler. I
Albert
can't
Bender, 3 men, flying saucers?
wait. I've been thinking about this for weeks.
Okay. And then I talk for about 3.5 hours.
That's not true. I wish you'd quit saying
We talked too.
that. It hurts my feelings that you don't remember anything I had to say.
I just feel like you all were so bored.
I wasn't bored. I actually listened to that story. We
Well-
just didn't talk a lot. You could tell you were very passionate about it.
We ended up recording for too long. And that means instead of just one episode on the Men in Black, our listeners get more than one.
Yay!
Yeah, congrats everyone. And our
we
next
love this for you.
and our
is
next
great.
episode should drop sooner because that is going to be all about Albert K. Bender and his book Flying Saucers and the Three Men, which was published by Gray Barker's publishing house. That will be the podcast you all listen to next.
I was here
true.
for that conversation, and it was great. I can't wait to hear it again.
Oh, great. So, our pop culture conversation, that's what you got. And the next one, you'll get more of the same, but book-focused.
I would say the next one is more intellectual than this one.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like 5 hours.
No.
I was having a blast.
Great. We're trying to record an outro here.
We did it.
We
I
did
think
it? We're done?
it.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
don't
Oh.
you think we could come back through the smoke?
Well, do you think we come out of this smoke or do we stay in it until the next one? Listen, we're still wandering.
We're
Yeah. We have never once on this podcast talked about our logo
Yeah.
or prairie smoke.
Yeah.
Although we're talking about smoke, I don't think we've ever talked about the title. Like the coolness
Do you
that came to be. A lot of people probably don't know that a prairie smoke is actually a flower, a wildflower. Mm-hmm. And
I didn't know that.
And it looks like smoke. They're pink.
Oh,
but
like when it waves. in the
yeah,
wind?
so that's also why we have pink in our. And anyways, yeah. So it kind of like when you're walking through a patch of them, it's like it looks like smoke, and so that just kind of found its way into our title.
but then
I
also
thought it was like bullshitting. Like we're blowing smoke up your butt.
Oh. I never intended it to be bullshit.
Thanks a lot, Sarah. It's nice to have you on the show.
Yeah.
Okay, how about this? Not in a teasing way, but we are talking about
Of course. Yes.
fabrications in some cases, and in
Yes.
some cases not.
Yeah.
and so,
Potentially. Yeah.
Yeah.
The reason I bring it up is not for this awesome content that we have now, but I feel like it needed to be said. Like we're talking about, we're still in the smoke, and then the next episode we're still there, you know. So we're still walking through
we're wandering in the field.
the field.
I like it.
Yeah.
I have always been super literal, and it's going to get real smoky in this room. And while it's real smoky, we're going to be talking about stuff that's beyond the veil.
Yes.
And so,
And that is kind of the main what we're
Yeah.
getting at when
Yeah.
we say we're going through, you know.
Yeah.
Like, but not a lot of people know that
It's a flower.
a wildflower actually kind of
We could all be
inspired us as well.
Holding
Yeah.
hands, walking through this field,
Yeah.
through the prairie smoke.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go get a tattoo tomorrow.
All right.
Wow.
Rock on.
I'm not.
She's blowing smoke up our ass.
She is.
He can cut me talking about bullshitting.
It's probably going to stay in. That's really good content.
It is.
Okay, so we're gonna listen to a little jam now.
Yep. Little jam time.
Little jam time.
And we'll see you pretty quick for the next episode.
Play us off.
Yeah.
Out.
Play us off.
This
'cause
is
we're
Play
not
us
weird
going out.
one.
through.
This
Play
is
us next. Play us.
Hit the next button.
The smoke is not clearing.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
What do you know? That wasn't what you saw. Can I have a glass of sugar water?
Black car, black boots, pull up real slow. They don't knock, they already know. Knock, knock, who's there? Not a name you recall, just a blank face saying that wasn't what you saw. They talk smooth like static and sin. You blink once, now you're back in bed again. You had photos, proof all ready to share. Now your phone's just dust and electric air. Can I have a glass of sugar water? They grin, voice not quite right, skin too thin. They flip open folders with nothing inside, just a mirror and the look in your eyes. That wasn't what you saw nothing at all. They tap your head and the memories fall. Flash of light, now your name feels wrong. You hum a strange tune that don't belong. What do you know? What did you see? You're not the same since 3:30. You try to tell friends but you stutter and stall, cause that wasn't what you saw. They ask weird things like where were you born, then stare like a crow watching Rip in a storm. You say Nebraska, they blink once, twice. Now you swear your dad's name is Agent Rice. They're in diner sipping motor oil tea, asking questions. In base 3, you say I saw lights, saw the cow rise up. They laugh and say probably just swamp stuff. Their hands don't move right, their smile don't track. One walks off but his shadow comes back. And you're just trying to Google the sky, but autocorrect types you didn't try. That wasn't what you saw, you dreamed it, friend. Nothing to report, start again, pretend. One flash, one blink, one polite little nod. Now your dog speaks French and your clocks are odd. What do you know? What's stuck in your craw? A cow's jaw cut like a jigsaw saw. You keep repeating it had no flaws, but that wasn't what you saw. You say they weren't human. They say memories a hallway. You try to retrace, but the walls rearrange. Now you're humming their anthem in the shower. That wasn't what you saw, just forget, move along. You were never out there and nothing was wrong. What do you know? What was that called? Just static and a voice that don't sound small. They cleaned the blood, erased the flaw, and left you whispering, that wasn't what I saw. Thank you for your cooperation. Please enjoy the rest of your perfectly normal evening.